This video is going to show you a solo Grandmaster Nightfall, getting platinum rank on the Exodus Crash on a Warlock using top 3 Nova Bomb with the exotic Gauntlets Contraverse holds, with a Healing Rift and the Vortex Grenade. So the typical grenade build that you see on Voidwalkers. Weapon wise, we're using the Biting Winds kinetic bow, then the Melo auto rifle from this season, which is solar, high impact frame, and the exotic sniper rifle D.A.R.C.I, which sits in the heavy slot. Now, I'm not using it so that you propose that you go ahead and use it, because there's way better choices. Literally, anything else would have worked better than this. I'm just using it to just show you how bad this weapon is in the current meta. When it first launched, sort of roughly after it first launched, they buffed it, and it was the best sniper rifle in the game. But then Whisper of the Worm released, and then that was the best sniper in the game. So back then it was good. Right, but ever since sort of new things have came out, this sniper has lost relevancy. The best thing is, the thing about it is that you can judge meters. So people use this weapon for tests. So it's better for tests than anything else. But as I said, I'll do a run with it because I've done a lot of unique exotics for solo GMs. So I just want to add to the list. I do realise how bad it is, and there's a lot of things I need to do with it. Probably need to move it to the special slot. The same, you know, sort of like Cloud Strike, buff its damage a little bit, and then it may be okay, usable. But right now, it's not really usable, okay? But as I said, we'll use it in the run anyways. So what you want to do is pick up all the arc waves. I missed one, so that was unfortunate, but I'll just go for that. You can't really skip all these ads because they one-shot your Sparrow, so you've got to be really careful about that if you try and Sparrow past them, unless you're on invis or something. So for the most part, you want to kill these initial snipers and the vehicles, kill this sniper over the bridge, and then Sparrow past. There's a couple of ads you can skip. There's like 2 snipers, 1 vehicle. Pick up the last pulse wave, and then you'll get a second set of pulse waves. Then you can come to this location up here, which is really safe to do it, to fight from. Because there's 2 snipers, there is a couple of shanks and a orange bar dreg. And a vehicle will push as well. So that vehicle can be really dangerous, especially if you don't melt them straight away. So that's why we're sitting up top. So we can take out a lot of shanks from here. You can do it everything really, to be honest. Sometimes the vehicle can get stuck. It got stuck here, so we can take the dreg. And then we can deal with the rest of the ads. We're not going to pick up all the pulse waves. We will take this sniper though, because it can interfere with the strat, and a sniper can one-shot you on Grandmaster if you haven't got the right stats. So I don't know exactly what resilience minimum you need, but you definitely need double arc resistance. So you run an arc chestplate, no matter what you're doing, whether you're doing team run, solo, whatever it is. Run an arc chestplate when you run an Exodus Crash. End of discussion, because everything does arc. There is a couple of things that do solar, but you can control that. Void, the void isn't threatening. It's only the anti-barriers that do void. So it's mainly arc, because all the vandals, they're a threat. The snipers are a threat, because all their bullets, some of their bullets can curve around corners, things like that. So what I'm doing here is spawn killing a lot of the ads that are already up top. They spawn in initially when you come up here, right? But we haven't picked up all the pulse waves. The reason for that is once you pick up all the pulse waves, you'll then spawn in the initials, the ads, the main ads, the champ and all that stuff. You want to spawn kill all that stuff, right? So doing it this way, no matter what solo build you're doing, whatever run or class you're doing it this way. So spawn kill all the marauders first. Then leave 1 pulse wave up, and then you can go up top and spend a super. That's what I'm going to exactly do. So obviously I've just got my Nova Bomb now. That's good. So we'll get on our Sparrow ready. Obviously it's a Sparrow zone, so you can do that. And then Sparrow up the hill as quickly as you can. The faster you are at this, the better. And then just use your super straight away. So Nova Bomb, use a grenade, hide behind the box. That will spawn kill all the ads, making this little encounter very easy. Now it's just using the overload. So obviously we're just going to use mainly our bow and our grenade. You'll see me use D.A.R.C.I here and there, okay? I'm not going to be spamming it. So if you're here for that, I haven't spammed it so much, just because it would make the run even more of a pain than it already is with this sort of weapon anyways. It does, when the exotic perk is procced, which you need to mark a target, basically there'll be an audio cue when D.A.R.C.I locks on to an enemy, you'll get the damage boost. It's doing roughly 10k to a champ. Okay, now correct me if I'm wrong, but linears are sort of doing like 20 up to 30k. Like a tarantula shot, I mean max particle deconstruction shots with box braving will do 30,000 to a champ, right? And that's also a heavy. So this heavy is doing this heavy is doing free. You know, it's only doing 10,000. A linear at max stacks is doing 30. So that's just showing you there, even with its perk. So it needs a big buff, obviously, and maybe what they could do is just swap it over to the special slot, like Cloud Strike and Borealis. Swap it over to the special slot and use it that way, because, as I said, it doesn't have any sort of meaning. Even if they give snipers a blanket buff, you're still not going to choose D.A.R.C., okay? You're not going to choose it, because you've got Whisper of the Worm in the heavy slot. You've got Cloud Strike. You've got Borealis is an amazing sniper. So there's other options that are way better. With this little section here, we're going to fire a nade into the middle, because a lot of the wretches and things will be hanging around there, so we can take advantage of that. Our build, which I haven't really gone into much, is a bog standard protective light setup for what I've been using. So it's protective light, charge harvester. So what does charge harvester do? Well, it basically, after so many kills, you'll just get charge of light. Now in solo play, you're going to be getting all the kills because it's only you. So that means you can get charge of light anywhere, really. Okay? So it's not like taking charge where you've got to go to that orb and pick it up, or it's not like shield break charge where you've got to break a shield. There's not many shields in this. So both taking charge and shield break charge aren't that good, especially the way we end up doing the boss. So charge harvester is really good. With this little section here, you want to spawn kill all the dregs. That's your goal. Okay, so you do a nade to your left if you're going to do this setup with the Contraverse, and then there'll be two dregs, two left, two right usually. So if you can get all the dregs, that really helps out, because those dregs will just keep nading you. Also, don't take out the Exploder Shanks. You can see the Exploder Shanks, they just want to travel to that capture point, right? What I've noticed off this run, I found this out. If you leave Exploder Shanks up, it changes the AI of champs. So generally, they'll be more aggro than this. But literally, this champ is just hanging out. Okay, now it might be because I stunned him early, but I think it's because I'm leaving the Shanks up. Because once you take out all the Shanks, the champs start to aggro a bit more. You see the left one starting to aggro me now a bit. But doing that, because obviously it's second nature, I take out the Exploder Shank straight away. Well, actually, that's not the best case scenario. Sometimes just leave them up. There's benefits to doing that. There's a couple of occasions I do that, especially when barriers come up. So we'll just keep continually overloading this champ and firing our nades. It's all about angles, obviously. This angle wasn't too bad. It wasn't the best, though. You just need to be keeping outstrafing all this fire. There's one dreg still alive. Now, I took out 3 dregs at the start. One dreg I missed. So you see how much problems I was getting off that one dreg nading me. Right? He just keeps nading over and over. So that's why it's so important to take out all dregs before you sort of encounter with the champs. If you're confident enough with it, you'll be fine. There'll be some marauders that you want to have killed because you want to push up. So those are there to take out. They can 2-shot melee you. One-shot you. They can't one-shot you melee-wise, no matter what. But they can 2-shot melee you, so just be careful of that. They're not too dangerous. Just jump away from them, overload them with your bow, which, as you can see, they're getting overloaded. If you didn't know, overload bow works out on all adds, because there's a perk to overload. You take reduced damage when you overload a target. So when you overload something with your bow, there's a debuff. There's an icon on top of that ad to show that they're debuffed. Like when you tether an enemy, right? There'll be a little purple aura type thing to indicate that they're debuffed, they're confused, they're smoked, whatever it is. Same thing for when you're overloading all ads. That's why whenever Overload buoys up, it's the go-to setups for GMs. Because not only is it really good on overloads, as you can see here, it's exceptional for just ad clear as well. We use a super here on this champ. We were a little bit late on the super, but the bow was just enough to keep him stunned. That's because this bow has explosive head. It's biting winds. Now, it's not the god roll. The god roll is rapid hit, explosive head. Which, yeah, you can get rapid hit on a bow. I've never had it, but you can actually get it. It's just a pain to farm, biting winds. So I just use the one I've got. The one I've got is good enough. But I would like a rapid hit version of it. The Aura Rifle's high impact frame from this season. Now, it's key that I use something with solar because there is some solar shields. There's not many, but there's enough to be a pain. So that's why I ended up going with a solar Aura Rifle and then a kinetic bow. Because I don't have a good Tyranny of Heaven, which is a Last Wish solar bow. It's the only legendary solar bow in the game. I don't have a good one. Well, it's actually okay. It would have worked out, but it's nowhere near as good as my Biting Winds. Because my Tyranny of Heaven doesn't have explosive, whereas Biting Winds does. So I opted to, as I say, go the high impact solar auto with the bow. Because the auto is going to come in really clutch because it's got Frenzy on it. Right, so when you get this auto rifle, make sure you get one with Frenzy. That is, whatever any roll with Frenzy will do you, because that's going to give you enough damage to take barrier shields from like an insane amount of distance, so that you can sort of still get away with it at the boss fight and things. We use a bit of D.A.R.C. to finish off this champ. I wasn't using its perk there. I was just spamming D.A.R.C. at the very end just to see what sort of damage it was doing. It does 6-7k without the perk and then nearly 10k with the perk. The best way to deal with this plate mechanic is to just do it a bit by bit. I'm rushing this a little bit more than what I need to because I'm wanting to get to 50%, right, by spawn killing a lot of the ads with my nade and my bow. Because once you get to 50%, you'll spawn in the champions. I want to spawn those in, to be honest, because I'm not really too fussed. It's not dangerous. There may be some ads left up that I've left, some wretches and things. If you're less confident than me, though, jump off the plate, clear the room, then go again with the plate. You don't need to be rushing the plate. As I say, I just stood on because I just wanted to sort of get past this section. My nade got shot out mid-air. You can see the proof of that. But it actually worked out because it cleared out. It took out a lot of the shanks. Now we'll focus the barrier. I'm waiting for my next grenade charge. And this is where the high impact auto will proc. We just got Frenzy to proc as well. Because Frenzy is something that procs after so long. I don't know the time on it, but it doesn't proc immediately. But it just procced halfway while I was dealing that shield. So this is how you can see that the auto is good enough. You don't need Ariana's Vow. You know, obviously if you're doing the strat that I'm doing, you don't. You just need a good long range auto rifle. Charge up another nade. The champ is a 3rd HP. This is where the build isn't as good. It's really good on overloads, not so good on barriers because my heavy's just basically kind of worthless at times. And these servitors have a difficult crit spot as well. So again, that's another thing that's not the best thing about it. Now we'll finish off the overcharged shanks on the left. Once you take out the overload or one of those, you get 3, well, not the overload, the barrier. Once you take out the barrier, you get 3 overloads spawn. Okay, so don't try and deal with the second barrier, you need to retreat. Take out any wretches that push, and then you need to back right off down these stairs. You can't fight up there, you will die if you do that. So what the goal is this, for these overloads, is to get all 3 of them close enough to you at the bottom of these stairs, which they will aggro you. Right, but what you want to take into account is there's a bit of RNG with these overloads. With Le Monarch, this is really easy. Okay, because the poison spreads out to all the overlords. So you basically stun all three with one bow. Biting Winds will kind of do that as well because it's got explosive, but it's not as good as Lone Monarch, but it's a good substitute. I end up spending a super here. The goal of this is this. Take out the champion that you see to the left side, as left as you can, right? Because if you don't stun the champion that can see you the most, that champion will kill you. You know, say for example, there's two champions on those stairs, one left, one right. You try and deal with the right one, the left one will kill you while doing it. So that might, some people might think, well, that's such a small detail. But if you do it like that, you'll find it easier. Because as you can see, there's only one or two that can see me. As long as all three couldn't see me, obviously I've killed a couple of champions by now. But if all three champs see you, and you don't strafe like I'm doing right now, you'll die. So focus on your strafe. You know, strafe even if they're not shooting at you. Get into practice of that because it assists to help the champion to not teleport. Okay, if you actually do that, because what he'll do is he'll go through the animation of trying to shoot you, then he'll stop. Trying to shoot you, then he'll stop. While in the meantime, you just keep stunning him with your bow. Use D.A.R.C. to finish. Then we can pick up any wells, which our build, armor mod wise, is, as I said, Protective Light, Charge Harvester. But we also have Elemental Ordnance on, Fire and Ice, and Elemental Charge. So that means whenever we kill a champion, we get a well. It is a Solar and Stasis one, so we can't take advantage of Font of Wisdom or something like that. But we can take advantage of getting Protective Light via that well. Because Elemental Charge means you get Charge of Light when you pick up a well. Also, we've got Elemental Ordnance. So every time we kill an enemy, we will get a well. We'll also get Charge of Light via that, which thus gives us Protective Light. So it's a Protective Light setup. We haven't went with the high energy fire because that's more a speedrun strats. And you'd only do that if you really know your way around this GM and you're trying to speedrun it. But for everyone else and just wants to get loot, then just go Protective Light. That'll save you when something screws up or you screw up. Then you've got that Protective Light to save you. If you explode a load of shanks on a champ, it does massive damage to them as well. So use the overcharged shanks to your advantage. We'll get the final barrier champ, and then we can carry on with the plate. So it's 50% to 100% now. Between 50 to 100, you're going to get a bunch of solar shanks, 3 I believe, and a good amount of overlords. Spawn killing adds with your nade, if you're using this setup, is really helpful because it's sort of, you're dealing with the phase as they're coming out. Okay, don't just run away as those ads come out. Try and get some chip damage in, a grenade or something, just to speed things up a little bit, just to assist you. But generally, especially on the left hand side, the vandals and things will hang out where that champion is because there's a mod called mob. And that means ads sort of hang around with champions. Okay, so it's a good idea anytime you can sort of deal with both like multitasking with the ads and the overload. Then that's always a good way of just sort of dealing with it all. We find a good angle on the overload. If you saw that, I had to reset him because he's hiding around that corner. So I know he could teleport in front of me and wipe me. So rather than do that, you need to reset the champion. Try and aggro him, hide, and then he'll sort of reset to back there. Because you don't want to be sort of fighting him around the corner, because that's where they'll just teleport on you. They'll teleport right in front of you, and the closer that champ is, the more likely he'll just kill you outright. We've got 2 more phases now, we're at 70%. So on this phase, it'll be a solar shank, obviously overcharged shanks, you get that each time, and a good amount of vandals, things like that. believe you get... I believe there's an overload on this phase. I'm not 100% now. I might not have stood on the plate long enough. But with the assault, this is where the auto rifle obviously will come in. So we'll take his shield down with the auto. And then you can just obviously do your damage then to the overcharge, to the big shanks. Always keep an eye on any strafe shots that the Fallen do, any nades, because a nade can get you one shot as well. That's why you really need the double arc resistant things. There wasn't an overload on this phase, it's the next one. So the next phase it'll be an overload and 2 heavy solar shanks again. Which again, this whole plate mechanic room isn't a problem at all. It's one of the easiest parts of the run. Once you learn it, once you know, you're good. It's when someone tries to stand on the plate too long, yeah, and then they wipe because of that. It's the same for team runs. Team runs will try and push it. They try and push through multiple phases. You can do that as long as you've got the right build and set up with well radiances. Maybe you're tight with Ursa Furiosa and things like that. You can do all that stuff, but you've got to have the setup to do it. If you're on a team on LFG, just pull back. Step on plate, step off plate, step on plate, and that way you're taking each phase as it comes, so you're not getting overwhelmed as a result. There was no game audio in this, I forgot to state, because my recording sort of included microphone from previous, so I had to sort of take out all game audio and then redo it over. This sometimes happens with my settings, I forget to change. So that's why that is. But obviously I'm adding commentary afterwards, so there is that. And with runs like this, especially when you're handicapping yourself, because I'm basically just handicapping myself to double primary at this point, because I'm not really using D.A.R.C.I much. I'm using it for a bit of ad clear, a bit of burst damage on certain targets, but it's not really needed there, okay? But what you will learn is everything. Once you start to handicap yourself like that, you need to know how to get round the encounter. Okay, so I'm not going to have the burst damage I would usually have from a rocket, a linear. So I would deal with this. Like, for example, here, this overload is high and to my left. He's in a bad position, so we reset him. The full room's clear, so we can do that. So I come to another section. I know the champ's going to spawn somewhere else, which is good. Right, now I have a clear angle on him. I have loads of heavy on the floor, so I'm going to actually use some heavy. I was just quite impatient with the gun, just because it takes so long to track it, and so you can see the sort of damage it's doing. Obviously, it's not. I mean, if there was Sunder and Glare, if anyone remembers Sunder and Glare, it would do a little bit better. Sunder and Glare was an extremely good mod. It was rapid precision hits with any weapon. You would debuff that. I don't know if it was a buff or a debuff, but you would essentially boost your damage as a result. I can't remember if it was buff or debuff, but it doesn't really matter. The point of it is, it would be a little bit better for when I'm using D.A.R.C.I or whatever. But there isn't sort of any sniper mods this season. It's all fusion mods, of course. So now we're going to wait for the arc pulse waves to spawn in. This is a public zone. Okay, so what do you need to know about this? Well, public events can spawn. Right? Sometimes there's some public events, sometimes there's VIP targets, like just the normal stuff when you come onto a planet. The problem is you're on Grandmaster mode. So even though you're in a public zone, these ads can melt you just like any Grandmaster ad can. The difference is their health pool isn't the same as a Grandmaster ad. So they haven't got the same health. You can melt them literally like you would on a planet. But in this difficulty, in this particular setting, they can still do the same amount of damage. So any sort of fallen sparrows can melt you down. Now, there wasn't any for me. I'm going to assume because there was a public event up. Just be cautious, I would say. And take any of them out from a cliff or something. Just take out... I'd done that on my previous run, on my Lemon Arc run, if you've seen that. I literally just stood on a cliff, took out all the sparrows, and then sparrowed over myself to get all the pulse waves. So now we're approaching the tank room, the tank section, sorry. So with the tank section, you've got to be careful, especially this middle part here. There's a sniper to our left, so I'm going to jump off my sparrow because the sniper can kill us while we're on our Sparrow. And what I'm doing here is I'm killing time, because there is a fallen catch, right? Obviously dropping the tank off. Well, that fallen catch can kill you. So I'm coming to this location here to check if there's a fallen sniper up, because there can be 2 dregs and a vandal. These can hit you in the back while you deal with the tank, but on this one, those ads weren't there for me. The catches flew away, so now I can deal with the tank. All you want to do with the tank is, especially on this build, is just keep nading the tank and obviously getting your crits. You can use a bit of sniper ammo as well if you wish. Like, I wouldn't obviously waste all your heavy, because it is handy having a bit of heavy when you get to the boss. But I would spam a couple of shots. What we're also doing here is letting the tank fight the Minotaur, because a Minotaur spawns in right over the other side. So the Minotaur will do you some extra damage to the tank, and will also preoccupy the tank from firing at you, right? Which means you can do all the damage you need. The only problem that I had with this is I couldn't see the tank's crit spot. You can pick up a fallen Sparrow, whatever you call them. You can pick them up and do damage with them, right? And that's actually the quickest way of doing it. But I didn't bother picking up the... I didn't really want it. I just wanted to use my grenades, really, to be honest. But that is an option for you. Just be careful, because as I said, there could be snipers respawning up. I'm not really sure if enemies respawn like they do in a public zone. Right? Do you kill a sniper in a certain area with all the ads? You go back there. Is the sniper back? I don't know that. So I would just be careful, you know. That's why I don't really go wandering much. I just stay with the tank, do my damage that I need to do, and then I can move on with this section. Because I don't want any things happening that shouldn't. Do some damage with D.A.R.C. Done some decent damage, but it's just because it's a tank, you know, so that's why, you know, snipers are obviously really good on tanks. But there's only one tank in the entire run, so... Tank is literally one shot, so we just keep doing our damage with our grenades and our bow. If you do kill the tank with a certain ability tied to your mods, for example, I've got elemental ordnance on, the tank will spawn a well, just like a regular enemy. Right, so that's a good thing to know, if you want to do that. There's certain nades that work really well on tanks, things like Vortex Grenade on Warlock, Hunter, Void Sentinel. The Voidwalker grenades melt the tanks because it hits multiple legs at once. You see, that's why those types of nades are good. Certain nades like pulse grenades, they're not as good. Stuff like that. Solar grenades, they're not quite as good. I mean, they're alright, but it's mainly the void nades that really are good on the tanks. So, what you want to do is, when you get to this section, shoot this bomb here. There's like a bomb. If you shoot that, it takes out a couple of the ads. Then as soon as you see the overload, you want to stun that overload. The reason for that is, if you can get him overload to the state where he just stands there, then that's great. But sometimes if you overload him, he will run up the stairs and you have to fight him from inside. The beauty of this is, though, I can fight him from here and he's not even shooting at me. If I go closer, though, I'll get grenaded. Dregs and things will start firing at me. I mean, I've got to strafe that. I might die. There's risks. There's no risk here with this because I immediately stunned him, and that's what I was looking out for. If you already know what you're looking out for on a run, it just makes it a lot easier. Okay. If you're going into a run blind, that's why when a new strikes come out and we get new GMs, they're so difficult when you're going into them blind. But we haven't had that feeling for a long time because you don't get many strikes. You know, and the last one will be Proving Grounds. So when that first came out and it was blind, run to people, especially on GM difficulty, it was very difficult for most people. Like 100%, because people were still learning the whole strike. Because when you're just doing a strike in the playlist, you're not really learning it. Unless you are there looking to study it, to see what the actual spawns are for GM difficulty. But for the most part, you're just going through the motions. But when it comes to GM difficulty, then people have got to actually sit and analyse the spawns. It's like, right, we've got to melt these VIP targets, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. Whereas on the strike modes, it doesn't matter. On GM difficulty, it matters. You need to know the better you know about that strike to a minute detail, the easier. The thing is, you can switch off. Just do it. Just switch off. Just do the run, get your loot, and then move on. Like for me with Dexter's Crash, I can kind of switch off with the run. Obviously, we're doing the boss room to an exploit, so I understand that makes it easier. But it's just to show folks it, and I'm handicapping myself in other ways by using a sniper that's not really usable. But again, it's just to showcase what this weapon looks like in end-game stuff. And I do this with a lot of exotics. Some of them work out to be surprising, like Polaris Lance that I done. That was really surprising. Fawn was surprising. That was last season. Malfeasance was surprising. Jatum was extremely good. So there's been times when I've used amazing exotics that you wouldn't think are that good, are good. But then there's times when I use exotics that are not good at all. Like I used Whisper the Worm on Devil's Lair this season. That wasn't... I mean, it was okay, actually. It wasn't so bad, but it needs to be buffed, which it is going to get that buff. And I'd made that video before they even said we're buffing it. So, you know, all that stuff's going to happen. What you need to do with this exploit is you need to jump down, kill all shanks, leave one up, then jump back up. If you don't jump down to have your feet touch the arena, this won't work. Okay? You need to actually touch the arena, then jump back up, making the jumps that you just saw. Then we're going to come to this section here. This is sort of where you can stand. There's a no turn back zone. There is a no turn back zone, but not on this box. If you jump up in the air from where I am, you will get that. But obviously you're not going to be doing that. So now we're looking to see where the boss spawns. Even though this is an exploit, you need to be extremely vigilant about ads. Okay, so on the first phase, this is the first major phase. Once you do a bit of damage to the boss, there'll be a spawn of ads. Wretches, mainly vandals. Spawn kill those as quickly as you can while the boss is alive. Because here's the thing, when the boss is alive or present, the ads are more likely to be volatile towards you, meaning you can spawn kill them easier. Because how this whole boss fight works is, the next phase won't start until all the ads are killed. So if you've got one wretch hiding somewhere and you don't know where, you might get frustrated and fall off this box, fall onto the arena, then you've lost your exploit and you've got to do your run legit. Especially on a loadout that's subpar, you're in trouble then if that happens to you. So what I would say is, incentivize killing all the ads as soon as they drop. Like, I'm on the first phase, there's another wave of ads. The next wave of ads starts when the boss goes invis. So he's going to go invis in a minute. I'm just using my grenades, I'm using my bow. I'm not sure if I got all the ads, but I got a good number. I'm pretty happy with how many ads I got there. Boss goes invis, ads drop down. You're going to see that right now. So there they are. So try and get some pot shots in, as much damage as you can. Okay? And then where they all gather up is just below the box. Like, not just below, but where I'm standing way down there, that's where most of the ads will stand. So that's where the Voidwalker is really good, because your Vortex Grenade, with its bloom effect off top 3 Voidwalker, is going to do a lot of splash damage to all the ads. Meaning that it's really easy. It's like the best class to do this on here, because of the utility of the nade. So any opportunity you see any wretch that push you, because this is your only opportunity, because once the boss goes immune, these ads aren't going to want to push you. They're going to want to hide, and it's going to annoy you. So I do a couple of test nades as well, because I can't see exactly everything. See, I got 33 damage there, but the ad moved out of that grenade, so I know that there's some ads. He moved back into it though, so that's fine. But as I said, I'm trying to do as much damage as I can before I send the boss. The boss can hit you. He could technically kill you up here, but that would be very difficult. You know, you'd have to be really sort of slow to do that. So pay attention to your HP, of course. But for the most part, his shots miss. So the next phase hasn't initiated, okay? Because the reason why is because the shanks haven't exploded. This Dreg actually nades me. I've never saw this before. He could have wiped me there if he stuck me, but he didn't. Protective Light kicks in. This is why I always say go Protective Light. If I went the high energy fire build there, I'm dead. I jump up slightly into a Nova. I know it's only one ad, but it's so important to get any other ads. See, there's a couple of ads hiding. You're better off saving Nova Bombs for ads rather than the boss for the first 2 phases. You don't need to be Nova Bombing the boss. It's the ads that are the problem, not the boss. Now, what I done there is I used the explosive head bow to shoot the Dreg that was hiding behind that pillar at the very back, because I knew that's where he hides, you see. That's just because of past experience. But the explosive head bow will aggro that ad. Like, if that was just a normal bow, it wouldn't do damage to him, but the explosive one does. And then I've started the next phase, because all the shanks have exploded. I'm on phase 2 now. So on phase 2, you're going to have the same sort of problem as phase 1 with the ads sort of hiding. It's not as bad and there's less ads on phase 2, but you've got 2 barriers to deal with. Okay? So again, you want to prioritize the ads as much as possible. Nading just below you. As you can see, there's plenty of ads up there because I'm getting a lot of damage numbers. Take your time with the boss, because it's actually good when the boss is alive, because as I said, the ads will aggro, give you opportunity to sort of deal with it. The worst thing would be is if you melt the boss and all the ads, you haven't took any ads out. You're going to have such a hard job taking them all out. I'm not saying it's not possible, of course it is. You're just going to extend the run longer than what it needs to be. I used a bit of D.A.R.C.I ammo on him, just to see what it's like. Obviously it's terrible. But we still use it regardless. There's another mini wave on this. So there's usually 2 phases of ads per phase, per main phase. Apart from the final phase, phase 3, which only has 1 huge phase of marauders. A lot of marauders, invisible fallen basically. This boss also has 2 transitions. He has his main attack, which is his Lord of Wolves, right? Which he just does his solo attack on phase 1, phase 2. On phase 3, he turns into a melee enemy. He doesn't have a stomp mechanic either. So he can just melee you, that's all he can do. He can 2-shot melee you on GM. He can't 1-shot you melee. He definitely can't do that. I was really happy with the amount of ads I've took out, so I'm going to start to just sort of send the boss. Obviously, you want to send the boss before you deal with the barriers, because the barriers will hide when the boss is alive or present on the map. When the boss de-aggroes and goes invis, the barriers will reveal themselves, meaning that you can take them. So this is obviously a platinum run still. And you need to kill the barriers to proceed with the fight. So you can't, there's no way of skipping them. There's 2 barriers to take. Now, you can get unlucky. I end up getting unlucky a little bit here. The barrier can sometimes teleport out of your view. If that happens, you've got to reset. But because of our double primary setup and our grenade setup, we can deal with these barriers just with double primary alone. What it is between barrier phases, when you break a shield, say you've got a barrier half HP. If all you're doing is primary in a servitor, barrier servitor, they just want to teleport. If you're not doing massive stagger damage like with a heavy, they're not gonna they won't teleport. But like doing damage like this, they have a higher chance of doing that. So as you can see, he's gradually just getting out of my view each time. I'm trying to do D.A.R.C. damage, missing all my shots, and now he's out of my view. So that's a reset. So what I'm going to do this time, instead of taking the left barrier, I'll take the right barrier, because there's more field of view on the right side. Because if he teleports all the way to the right, that's fine, because there's loads of space. They'll also want to go close to where the shanks are, because they want to make those shanks immune with their tether. So they won't teleport too far away, you know. So it's a good idea to keep up some of the shanks, especially that one in mid. But I took the right one first this time. So this barrier is pretty weak now, less than a third. You could technically use a super on it, but the way Top Tree Nova works, who knows, it might track the second barrier that you're not dealing with. And if that happens, you're not prepared. So I wouldn't recommend using a super on them. You could use a super on the second barrier. I suppose you could do that if you're not confident. But once it goes down to one barrier, it's really easy at that point, because that barrier is not going to... It's less likely to teleport out of your view, because it's just one barrier. As I said, with all these overlords and champions, they work differently. It's the same in all GMs. Depending on how many champs are alive, that champion will react differently, depending. They'll aggro you when there's more than one. When there's only one left, they will sort of sit idle more often and be less threatening. It's important that you always get a reload first after a shield break. If you haven't got... Obviously, if you've got the auto-load and holster auto rifle type of roll, then that's fine. Right, but I don't believe this solo auto rifle even rolls with auto-load and holster. If you have a good Tyranny of Heaven, you could have used that, then used the carbine with the Zer roll. And that would have been a good way. That way you don't have to get the reload, and it increases your damage because you don't have to reload the auto. You can do all your damage with your other weapons. But on runs like this, you've got to improvise, and that's what will make you a better player. When you start doing runs that aren't in your benefit, it's actually going against you. But then, as I said, you improvise the run as a player to get through it, and then when you do go back to your Anarchy runs, your Witherhoard runs, you'll think this is so easy, or your La Monarch runs, because La Monarchs are insane for this GM. You'll find it when you go back to a good loadout. It's like, oh, this is easy now to me. This, you see, so it increases, how good you get at it. I took out the Final Vandal. Luckily, he wasn't hiding too far away. He was on the left side. This is the final phase, so the bulk of it's done. The final phase isn't too bad at all, honestly. So you get the invisible marauders. They'll stand directly beneath you, like all of them. They don't separate up, which is great. So they all sort of stand together, so you can just grenade them down below. You need to take out all the overload chunks, and then what we're going to do is fight from down below. Because the bosses went into melee format, he's non-threatening. He can still kill you, right? But as long as you're jumping over him and doing everything that you need to do that way, then he won't kill you. So as I said, just take out all the shanks. A shoot to loot bow would have worked out good for this as well. Like if I used an actual good loadout, like a shoot to loot bow with whatever I'm using, it'd have to be a kinetic auto, because you can't really optimize a lament run. Not for Exodus. It's just not. You can do it with lament, right? Never say never, because there's always somebody. But it's not worth it to go lament, especially if you're doing this. If you stand up here, then you can't do the lament run. Okay, so we took out the final overload. I'm not sure where the boss is. The boss goes invisible as well, so he's difficult to track. He's de-aggroed, which means he doesn't know where I am. He can't shoot at us, so he's sort of just standing somewhere, and I wasn't sure where. But that's fine. Once you're confident all the marauders are killed, if you're not, do a test grenade below you. Just do a test. Even though you don't get your grenade back, that's fine. Just do a test. But I was 90% confident that everything was killed. If it was one or two marauders, you can run away from them, kill them, map rotate. It's not too bad. Just doing a test grenade. There's nothing down there, so I'm happy. I was wanting to see where the boss is. The boss can hide in several places on this phase. It's interesting how he works. But I was happy enough with that. Obviously, there's heavy down there as well, so I can utilize a bit of that. there's a couple of ways of doing this now. So obviously you need to keep an eye on your audio cues. You won't see that in the video because I've disabled the audio, right? You're not going to hear that, but he makes noises, you know, with his invisibility and things, so you kind of know where he is. The best thing to do, really, obviously you can server him. That wasn't the best server. He avoided it. What I do is just do a bit of map rotation, but there's a couple of boxes you can stand on. I end up utilising my damage way better than now. You can do it like this, which is slower, or you can stand on a box, which I end up doing at the end of the run. You see there, he meleeed me, so he doesn't break your shields, but another melee would definitely kill me. So all I'm doing here is charging my nade, jumping over his head. He's getting damage off the nade, I'm getting my grenade back, and I'm just doing damage like that. Try out D.A.R.C. He's difficult to crit this boss because he's mobile. And you've only got so much time to do it, because if you're doing it like this, at least, because he, you know, obviously he's going to melee you at some point. He definitely is better standing on a box, which you're going to see at the very end. I wasn't sure which box it was. I knew there was a box you could stand on. I ended up finding one. Because here's the thing with the box strike, you can still sort of kill you on it. You just need to be jumping up in the air on that box, which you'll see at the very end. Boss is literally 10, 20, well, about 20, 15% HP. He went in phase and then reappeared. I'm surprised there's not another ad phase when he does that, because generally when he is like that, there's another phase. But fortunately, there wasn't another phase of Marauders, which is good. It's kind of a good thing in a sense. I'm not 100% on the strike loot this week. I got Uzume off this. It probably is Uzume, and I'm not sure what else in terms of the adept loot's all over the place. There's nowhere in the game where it tells you what loot's up. You've got to go on Reddit, find out what someone said. I know it's on a rotation, but it's kind of all over the place, the strike loot for GMs. So this is the box I was on about. It's really good for damage. He just stands in your nade. This is where I should have come from the get-go. We can do a bit of D.A.R.C. ammo to finish it. But that was the solo Grandmaster with D.A.R.C. On Nova Bomb. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.